Hi, another episode of Rona Report. My name is Rico and I'll be filling in for Pascal. It's Mental Health Week. Today with us, practitioner Anthony Scott on mental health. For the people at home, could you tell us who you are and what you do?
Okay, good afternoon. Hope you're well. Before I do that, every day I kind of think about things to share with people that I work with or that follow me on social media. So I just wanted to share a reading with you this morning. Nobody's life is perfect. Rather than wishing for the things you don't have, make the most of the things you do have. Focus on what you have. In our materialistic world, it's easy to fall into the habit of constantly focusing on the things you wish you had. Every time you find yourself thinking, I want today, challenge yourself to replace the thought with, I have, and acknowledge the things that are already yours. I just wanted to share that. You asked me who I was and what do I do?
Yeah.
So, my name's Anthony Scott. For the last 20 years, I've been working with young people all over London. So today we're in my hometown of Stonebridge. And the majority of my work has been working with young people at risk of serious youth violence, or those that have been traumatized by violence, or working with young people to help them with their self-esteem, motivation, education. Generally just moving and helping young people forward. What makes me do this work is that I really enjoy seeing the change in people. And there was some really influential people in my life. So growing up in this estate, we had elders that would model good behavior, that would guide us, that would teach us. We always had elders that would kind of watch out for us. And I suppose that influenced how I am today in the work that I do.
So what has been your journey which led you to do a career within mental health?
That's a really good question. How did I get to where I am today? Because when I started my journey, I didn't think that I would end up where I am today as a counsellor stroke psychotherapist, systemic practitioner. Growing up on Stonebridge, I don't need to talk about the road, because I know the road, and like even on my estate now, I'm still certified. Like I can still go certain places. What we're facing now is no different to what we faced 20, 30 years ago. So man was still out here on the road, what you guys call now trapping. In our days, we was moving food. Part of doing crime, which a lot of people don't realise, is you have to do a bird. You've got to do a sentence. And some people don't realise that when you're involved in the lifestyle, doing bird is just part of the package. So if I'm a carpenter, I might bang my finger. If I'm an electrician, I might get shot. If I'm doing crime, I might have to go and sit down. So I had to sit down for a number of years, and doing bird influenced me in different ways. I met some good people. It gave me time to reflect and think about who I was. So growing up in this community, there was always strong values. And sometimes when you get caught up in the cycle, you can lose your way. So being inside gave me time to reflect on that. So I came out and I weren't sure what I was going to do, because I was still a young man. I was still a bit confused. And it took me a while to make that transition from road to having a career. What kind of drove me to work around mental health is that from very early, people used to tell me their stories and I didn't understand why. And it was only after studying that I understood that it was the relationship and the trust that people built with me that enabled them to feel comfortable to talk about their feelings. And that has worked with families, parents, and just communities that I've worked with. So the journey has been understanding the time that you give to people and the relationship that you build with them is the most important part in therapeutically helping people. So that's what's led me to where I am today.
That's amazing. That brings me to my next question, to be fair. 2 years ago, I was in a incident. I was attacked in 2018. Now I was just thinking, is there any advice you could give me for like mental health to like help me with my PTSD?
Okay. So when we talk about PTSD, in the terms of mental health, that is post-traumatic stress disorder. And people use that term a lot, but they might not understand what it is. And what it is when you've gone through traumatic events, almost like someone that's been in a war zone, you're suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, where slightest little things can bring you back to that incident. It could be a smell, it could be a sound, it could be the color of someone's jacket. And when that happens, the person almost relives that trauma again. It's like they're right there in that moment. If you don't get some support, and that support is actually speaking to someone.
How has living in London impacted mental health for a lot of people in London in general?
Mental health is big in our community. So coming from what we call adverse childhood experiences, where growing up you face a number of challenges: racism, discrimination, poverty, substance misuse, all of the ills of society. And young people now, and mental health, lots of young people are suffering. But what it is now is that their ill mental well-being is become normal. So now you've got a group of people, a generation of young people that think that poor mental health is the norm, and they're coping with different ways. Some of them are using cannabis, some of them are drinking, some of them are involved in behavior that's quite destructive to them. So I would say that it's really important for us as a community to share with our young people that seeking help for when you're not feeling okay, for when you're not doing okay, doesn't mean you're moist, it doesn't mean you're weak, it doesn't mean you're soft. It just means that you're in touch with how you feel. And for a lot of our young people, they've kind of lost that ability to understand how they're feeling. And the way that we can actually help them, because I believe that everybody can help people who is in a difficult position, it's about sharing time. So this is an organization that I've done some work with, and they're doing some phenomenal work in raising the awareness of mental health. As the title says, Black Minds Matter. And it's really important that we throw away that stigma, that we start letting people know it's okay not to be doing okay. It's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to not feel ashamed. So if I had a bad leg, I'd go to the doctor. So if my thinking and the way how I feel is not on point, I should be able to go to someone the same way I would go to someone if my leg was bad. Yeah?
In this whole pandemic, how do you think young people at this very moment have been impacted by mental health?
I think COVID and this pandemic is going to have a massive impact on our young people's mental well-being, because we're social creatures. We're used to communicating, interacting with people. People are isolated, people are locked down, people are fearful. So not only do our young people have to think about all the other nonsense around racism, employment, education, training, they also now have to think about their relationships. I can't imagine what it feels like now to be a young person. You're constantly on social media, you're constantly on your phone, because that's the only interaction that we have. How does that impact your mental well-being? Everyone's on this firm it up thing. Everyone's posting pictures and images of real good things, but that's not the reality. A lot of us are suffering. We're not doing that well. Are we getting our daily exercises? Are we reading? Are we communicating with our friends, i.e. talking to them, because talking is key? Or are young people just sitting down in their house playing PlayStation? What about these young people that were meant to do their exams? They got all of those worries. How is that going to impact them? In terms of young people now and being able to cope, how is this going to impact them? When this is all over, I can't even start to imagine the types of cuts that they're going to make to services. And historically, people from our communities are always at the sharp end. That means that services that are targeted for them are always the first to get around the cuts. Where is funding going to come from? So we're going to need more services to actually work with young people around their mental health. And I'm just fearful that when we get through this, all of those services are going to be shrunk back. It's going to be more difficult. The thresholds are going to be higher. And I'm worried that a lot of young people are going to fall through the net. And it's only when they're in real crisis, that's when they're going to be picked up. So for the young people out there, for the professionals, for the families, for the communities, for everyone that is part of this ecosystem, we all can play a part. So we can all encourage young people to talk.
Scott, it was nice talking to you. I'm glad I had to get a certain different perspective on your side. I feel like there's a lot to think about. Certainly, like you said, we all can help in an ecosystem, which is very, we should try to be reliable, as I must say, especially for our kind, you know, people going through racism, they're not really getting it easily. Like people in these areas who are in real poverty right now, they definitely need a lot of help. So I just want to thank you so much for coming through. And
I want to say thank you for asking me to do this. I'm always open to give my time. And just on a closing note, I just want to reiterate this message. Time is the most valuable asset that we have. Give people some time in a voluntary capacity, in a helping capacity. Make time out of your busy schedule. Sit down, talk to your nephews, talk to your nieces, talk to your cousins, because we can all do our little bit.